there's going to be a mistake.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so, I get wanting to be like, hey, I'm going to do this now, and say that to yourself if that helps you motivate yourself. But don't, like you said, don't sit her down and be like, hey, this is how it's going to be. Because if you mess that up,
then you can have that conversation. Then you can say, look, we need to change things around here. And now she's going to be receptive to that because she's already seeing what you're doing. Right.
And she knows that she can relax into the feminine side, and you're taking stress off of her, and you're actually stepping up and doing the things and taking the responsibility and being the man. And so she's seen it. She has proof. Stop protecting yourself. Stop being so harsh, because that is what causes you to act more masculine and degrade him if that's what you're doing. A lot of women do that, and come from a vulnerable place if you have a problem. Any other things that you think guys need to do? I think you hit on a lot of them.
I mean, I think that's the main. I think it goes without being said at that point if you start stepping up, because you don't need to have a conversation, and especially early on, right? If you're thinking this, do not have a conversation. Do not sit her down and be like, look, we're going to need to change things around here. I'm the man, and you're going to respect me as the man, and I'm going to be the masculine, the leader of this house. And
well, because that's even worse if you don't follow through.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you said all that and then you don't follow through.
Right.
Now she really doesn't respect you. You might as well, the whole thing's just done at that point. If you sit there and say that and then you don't do it, she would not trust you to try again. If you do it, if you just do it, right? You start taking these things, even if you slip back on a little things, since you didn't have that full-blown conversation, it's not going to be
held against you.
Right. And it's not going to make her afraid as much as if you're like, hey, I'm going to do this. And then you don't do it.
Right.
So, and then also too, you won't beat yourself up if you make a mistake, because you've been living this passive, people-pleasing way for so long. There's going to be a mistake.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so, I get wanting to be like, hey, I'm going to do this now, and say that to yourself if that helps you motivate yourself. But don't, like you said, don't sit her down and be like, hey, this is how it's going to be. Because if you mess that up, she's probably not going to trust you at all at that point. And then she's going to be back to her masculine, and then y'all are in the same exact position.
And she's not really going to have the buy-in, right? Even if that conversation goes well, and she's going to be like, sure, yeah, you're in charge. Yeah, sure. Right.
Well, because it's words, right?
It's going to be she's still going to do the things and not really actually try. But if you take the actions first, so you've garnered the trust.
And the proof.
Right.
The proof.
Yeah.
So,
If I had a coaching client and he's resistant to it, but he just actually bought a restaurant, right? And he was like, oh, yeah, all the staff there. He has all these issues with staff, right? And I was like, dude, you need to go work in the kitchen. I was like, you need to go work as a server. You need to go work as a cook. He's like, I don't have time. I don't really want to. I'm like,
that's good
advice.
That's
the only way you're going to earn their respect.
Right.
They got to see you busting your ass.
And that's the only way he'll know what's going on, too.
Right.
It's just good advice in general that he should be in there with them.
But they got to see you doing their job better than they're doing their job. And then they will respect you and listen to what you have to say. It doesn't matter if you have the title, if you have the ownership, if you can fire them. None of that matters.
Right.
They got to see you doing the job. And then if they see that you're outperforming them, that's going to make them step up. It's going to make them respect you. It's going to make you the actual leader, not just the leader by decree, right? And it's the same thing in a relationship. As a man, you start stepping up, right? Having a higher standard for yourself and outperforming the things that she is doing to show that you can do a better job of it, right? Now she's going to respect you. Now she's going to say, okay, yeah, right. Now it's like, okay, I get it.
Right.
But then you can have that conversation. Then you can say, look, it's about, we need to change things around here. And now she's going to be receptive to that because she's already seeing what you're doing. Right.
And she knows that she can relax into the feminine side, and you're taking stress off of her, and you're actually stepping up and doing the things and taking the responsibility and being the man. And so she's seen it. She has proof. It's easier to trust you rather than just the words.
Yeah.
And then now that you're saying it, now she will even more believe what you're saying because you've already laid that groundwork of, see here, I already did it sort of thing.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And notice none of this, I reformed my ways. It did not involve having to be the sole breadwinner. And I think that's still ideal, but you can change the dynamic without that. You know, ideally it does, and you do work towards that where you are the sole breadwinner and she doesn't have to work. But even in that circumstance, you can still do these things, which changes the dynamic, and she's going to be a lot more receptive to that. So
that's true.
Yeah. So I think those are the things really that you can do as a man to flip it around. What about as a woman? How does a woman? Because, you know, a lot of guys want to flip the dynamic, but a lot of women are, you know, women have messaged us, have messaged me when I was doing coaching for guys, and I had to watch my videos and be like, I want my husband to step up. I want him to start being masculine. I want him to start being the man. How do I even do that without emasculating him by telling him to do it, which is emasculating, right?
Like, well, yeah, and that's still being bossy. And, you know, yeah, I would say the first thing is, and I say this because it's something that she can control and she can do regardless of what he's doing, regardless of if he started doing what he needs to do, is to stop protecting yourself, stop being so harsh, because that is what causes you to lash out at him and act more masculine and like degrade him if that's what you're doing. A lot of women do that. And come from a vulnerable place if you have a problem, rather than a masculine, like guarded, defensive place, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
Especially because women get told like, oh, you need to like fend for yourself and you need to be able to like protect yourself and you need to be able to do all this. Like, that's how we're taught growing up. And like, to some degree, it is a good thing when women are on their own, because then they aren't taken advantage of. But especially the second you're married, like I would say the second you're in a committed relationship, you really need to let that go. But definitely if you're married, like that has to change. You have to go from that mindset to being vulnerable. And if from the very beginning, like if any younger women are watching this, try to be as vulnerable as you can, even while still protecting yourself, obviously, from the situations that you'll encounter when you're on your own. But that's really where a lot of women start creating a lot of problems and become more masculine and controlling, is by the way that they handle conflict. And I have done this, and, you know, it's not easy to like make the switch. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's easy to go from being defensive to being vulnerable, because defensive makes you feel like you're stronger when you're doing it, because you're just attacking somebody else because you feel like you're being attacked. But really, if you're vulnerable, it puts everybody in the situation in a softer place where you can actually connect and actually fix the problem. So, and also take accountability for what you're doing, because that will also help you be vulnerable. If you're like, I messed up. Or, you know, I'm sorry that I said this to you when we were arguing, or I'm sorry that I yelled at you, and, you know, apologize for the things that you did wrong. It doesn't make you wrong. Like, you're not a bad person.
Exactly.
But if you continue to do it, you do look more like a bad person. And like, even though you're not, the best way to keep from going down the spiral of just lashing out on people is to apologize. Because also, when someone accepts your apology, and even if they don't accept your apology, they're just like, thank you for apologizing. That makes you feel better because you did the right thing.
And that's one of the number one complaints, ladies, that men have, is that women never apologize. You've seen that diagram with that Indian guy when he's like, how men apologize. Ooh, I'm sorry. And then it's like how women apologize. You ooh, no. You're sorry. It's like that's the real lived experience of a lot of men. That's why it went viral, right? It doesn't mean that it's 100% true, but you know, if you come across, especially if you haven't done it before, and then all of a sudden you start acting more vulnerable and you apologize for things, like sincerely apologize for things, you're gonna definitely cause some stirring in that man. He's gonna be like, wow, right? You know, it's gonna make an impact for sure.
So that's the first thing for sure, because like I said, that it doesn't depend on what the guy's doing at that point, because anything else going first would be hard, right? Because he hasn't shown you anything. He hasn't really said anything probably either at this point. So the first thing that you can do, that you should do anyway, like I said, like, is come from a vulnerable place rather than a masculine, like, defensive. Because being defensive is masculine, right? It's like attacking. Like, you feel like someone attacked you by saying something about you. And so instead of being like, oh yeah, like, maybe I did do that, you just go to attack. Or you'd be like, or you did this, you know, like the thing you just said. It's like, usually women are like, well, you did this, and then I did this, and then that's why I did this, and then so this is why, like, so it's your fault because you did the thing, right? Like, but really, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter who did what or what. Whoever's coming to you to talk about something, you have to accept that, and you have to validate what they're saying.
Right.
And they should be doing the same for you. But even if they don't, it's not about what they're doing back. It's about doing the right thing.